Hi, and welcome to the VR Gaming Podcast, podcast and commentary about VR gaming, VR news, VR hardware, and VR reviews. I'm Nick Lane, and with me is Justin Davis. As always, Justin, what is up? What's going on?
Hey Nick, I just got out of an arcade game that I was playing. I was trying to beat the game, and I was worried that I wasn't going to have enough time to beat it before I got into this one. It's an arcade game called Monster Maulers, where you fight like kaiju monsters and stuff. And then I ended up beating it and having enough time to go into Left 4 Dead really fast, the VR mod, and test something out there. And I just made it in time.
Dude,
For this recording.
this is pretty good on a Sunday morning. You're really incredibly productive with the video gaming.
Yeah, well, I only have a certain amount of time before, I do daddy daycare. So like I got to get as much as I can get in.
Nice.
So yeah, I get pretty productive.
Oh well,
Yeah.
well, good. I'm looking at your monthly recap. It's been about a little less than a month and a half since we've done a show, so I think things slowed down a little bit in some ways, especially in VR in terms of the release of games.
Yeah.
And I'm kind of in the same scenario. I was talking to Justin before we hit record. I've been way busier with work. So my hobbies take the backseat, but then also coinciding with that, well, there's a number of things. So my load is light. There's been a dearth of like really good VR releases or anything that's tempting me to jump in. And then living in Buffalo, New York, we're in the season now where like every day is like heaven in terms of being beautiful and being able to go outside, and it makes you forget about the cold, dark winters when you're trapped inside. But thankfully, that's when the VR is my saving grace. So long story short, I've been outside like every day I can possibly go outside and between work. So I've been my VR load is light, but thankfully Justin, as always, is a trooper and has an extensive list. So let's jump in and talk about what you've been playing for the last month.
Okay, because our last show we didn't have time to talk about what we've been playing. This is, a pretty big list here. So, I played Warplanes Battles Over Pacific. We got free keys for that. We're going to review it later. So Outer Wilds Echoes of the Eye. Echoes of the Eye is DLC for Outer Wilds, and Outer Wilds has a free VR mod, and it's one of the best VR mods that's out there. I love Outer Wilds. So this Echoes of the Eye DLC, it's unique in that once you go into the game, you don't even know how to get to it. Like you have to figure stuff out just to even find it, and it's really unique. And once you find the DLC, like the first moment that you experience that, it's one of the most amazing things I've ever seen in VR. So like just for seeing that alone, I think it's worth it. But if you're someone that doesn't like, puzzle games, like this is a really hard puzzle game. It's an exploration mystery kind of puzzle game thing, and there's no combat. But it's you've never seen anything like it in your life. And I'm not going to spoil why that is. But one thing that might annoy people about this game is it's kind of like the movie Groundhog Day. There's a time loop where it just keeps repeating. So you're going to do a lot of the same things over and over and over. And Nick, I don't think that's something you want to be doing.
I heard puzzle and
Yeah.
doing the same thing over and over, and that seems like I'd be stuck in a hell loop.
Yeah. Yeah. For someone like you, definitely. I'm crazy. Something's wrong with me where I don't know. I don't mind it. Like I could play a Mario game and die 100 times and keep going and keep trying.
Well, you're not alone though. I mean, first of all, Outer Wilds is a
Yeah.
popular game, from my understanding, right? Like,
Yeah.
so I might be more in the minority. I don't know.
A lot of people I've talked to that have tried Outer Wilds, they didn't get it and they just kind of gave up. But it's really hard. I mean, just figuring out what you're supposed to be doing, it's kind of a steep learning curve. And I did have to use some online guides to figure some stuff out. I'll admit that. But I recommend it for sure. So I beat Outer Wilds, a while back, but I beat Echoes of the Eye. So that's why I put that here. So I think the biggest news lately has been the Resident Evil 8 and Resident Evil 7. Those VR mods got full room scale and motion control support. So now you can play those and it feels pretty much like a native VR game, both of them. So I beat Resident Evil 8 and I loved it. And I played a little bit of Resident Evil 7. I haven't gotten to play much of that, but I already beat that on PSVR when that came out. But I intend to beat Resident Evil 7. And Resident Evil 3, I'm close to beating. And I want to recommend, there's a guy named Ashok that did this smooth movement mod for Resident Evil 2 and 3. I strongly recommend to get that mod because those games are meant to be third person, and when you move, there's like this head bob and kind of swaying thing that goes on. It's because the third person characters, they do these swaying movements, and for some reason the original modder Prey Dog wasn't able to get that movement like out of your camera view. But this guy Ashok did something where he's able to stabilize the root bone in the character's animation, so it just stays nice and smooth when you move. So it looks just like, see, Resident Evil 8 and 7 are first person games, like, so there's nothing weird with those two. But Resident Evil, with this mod, it makes Resident Evil 3 and 2 feel just as good as 7 and 8. So I'm close to beating 3, and once I beat that, I'll probably just go all the way through Resident Evil 7. So Nick, you're playing Resident Evil 2, right? But you haven't had enough time to play it.
Yeah, no, I'm really excited about these mods. I have been playing Resident Evil 2. I keep on downloading the nightly updates when I do hop back in, and I'm just like, I was like, this is awesome. Like the game just gets better. I've got it at a point where it's running pretty damn smooth. Mm-hmm. I think when I hop in, I tend to play until I get stuck at a place, and then I'll walk away for like, it could be like even a month. So, like, I don't know if how many years it's going to take me to get through these games, but maybe when the seasons change and I'm playing more VR, that's going to be my go-to thing. But yeah, I was in there within a few days ago because Deep Rock mod wasn't working just because of something with the base game. So I was like, I'll go back into Resident Evil, but I'm stuck in I'm at the part where you like meet, I think it's Mr. X. Does that make sense? Is that his name?
The big ass dude is chasing you around.
Yeah, and he's just chasing me, and I don't know where to go. So like, I tried to figure it out a couple times. It's not like I'm spending a lot on it, but whenever I get stuck, it's like, this is the thing. Like, there's so many games to play. There's so little time. Like, and when I'll give it like an honest effort, and then I'm like, all right, I need to go to a guide or something because I just want to move on with the game. Like, I love the game. I love the atmosphere. I love where this is going to take me. So, yeah, I'm excited to beat that and get through that. And then I got Resident Evil 3 to look forward to. And then 7 and 8, right? Those are the next mods.
Yeah.
The good news with my approach is that these mods only get better the longer I wait to play it. So it's like a win-win. But yeah, I'm committed. I really want to play these games. I think that's awesome. Maybe, who knows? Maybe I'll even have a better video card by the time I get to the other ones.
Yeah, so you probably put down your shadows. That's an important thing. Put your shadow level like down to like medium or maybe even low. That helps a lot with performance. Also, sometimes you have to lower your super sampling a little bit if you have any performance issues. But it sounds like you figured it out.
Yeah, it's all good. It's been very playable. I think I've got the Ashok mod going. It's still a little kind of janky on Resident Evil 2. Like there's like an extra step the character takes or something, or I see like my body in a weird position, but. Like whenever I load it up after not playing for a while, I was like, oh, this is weird. But then when I get into it, I'm like, you kind of forget all about it because you definitely get into that world. And it's just grateful to be able to play these games.
Yeah, well, like when you try to like back up really fast or run backward, like the body will rotate in a weird way.
Correct, yeah.
Like it doesn't match your view, but it ends up fixing itself. It's not a big deal.
Not a big deal. Not anything to keep you from playing this game, which is great.
I'm trying to remember what I did against Mr. X, but like what I did, I looked at my map a lot, and there's a way you can switch between floors. I don't remember if I had to use like a special, input mapping that somebody did, or had to make it myself. But I think I just had to look at the map and figure out where have I not been and where do I need to go. Like I really can't remember what I did. But he chases you a lot in that game. There's a lot of different scenarios where he just appears out of nowhere and you gotta deal with him. You can't kill him, so don't waste your ammo on him.
Yeah, I know. I don't know where to go. It's like one of those moments where you get stuck and like the game kind
Yeah,
of comes to a halt and it gets a little frustrating, right? Like I think those
yeah,
are. It's like why I've never really played a Resident Evil game, or maybe I tried and I get to a point I'm like, I don't know, I'm just gonna go play a multiplayer shooter, right? Like
yeah,
that's where my mind's at. But I really want to get through. I mean, again, everything's different in VR, and horror games in VR to me are where it's at for sure. Like I
yeah.
love it. I cannot say no to them if it's a good game.
Yeah, there's nothing I want to play more than Resident Evil games right now. They're. I mean, I love horror. I love, and they're also like they appeal to my whole like exploration, puzzle solving side of me. Um,
Yeah, and I can deal with the light puzzle solving in Resident Evil. It just kind of
mhm.
moves you around the map and you get a part. You know, like it keeps it
Yeah,
going forward, and it's not like, and thankfully we there's guides. You know, like growing up, you and I are relatively the same age. Like back in the day, like you get stuck on a game, like you're either done with the game or you're
yeah,
just again dedicate that small portion of your life banging your head against the wall until you figure it out.
yeah. Yeah, as a kid, there were games that took me years to beat. Yeah. Yeah, so then you talked about Deep Rock Galactic. I played that. The VR mod. I didn't get to play it a lot. I only went in a single player game, and I was just trying to figure out the controls because I've only done the tutorial in the flat game, and I know you said I need to play it more flat to learn what to do in the. But it was telling me I needed to mine a specific thing. I could find that thing to mine, but then it was something like, go find this sack, and like I found what I thought looked like little alien sacks on the ground, but I couldn't figure out a way to pick them up. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about.
So there's depending on the mission, there's a lot of different objectives in that game, a lot of
Yeah.
different missions. So not in particular, I think I figured out to pick things up. It's on the left index controller. I think it's the B button will pick things up.
Okay.
So yeah, let's talk about Deep Rock because we had the interview with the modding team last month, which was great. I've been looking forward to this game, and it's funny when I actually had a moment to play it. Like I was out of town when it got released, the mod. When I actually had a moment to play it, like Deep Rock, like the base game, the 2D game, was having an issue where like none of the mods were working, and you would get like a black screen just loading the game up, and so that was just bad timing. So then like I think the
Yeah.
next day it got resolved. So I finally got in. I spent maybe 45 minutes. Um, First of all, it looks really really cool being in the caves.
Agreed.
As my assumption prior to playing the VR mod, I looked at this game. I was like, oh, I have over 20 hours into the single player. I only got the game because of the mod. I knew there was a mod, and I knew it would look cool, and it definitely looks cool, and it runs great. Like I didn't have to. There were some suggestions in the Discord of like turning things down, so I turned them down. But other than that, I didn't have to play with anything more. I haven't pushed the limits. I haven't brought out my FPS. It got in. It just kind of was running smoothly once you get into the cave.
The only place it didn't for me was in that main spaceship area.
Yeah, and that's not bad. Like that's not
Hmm.
bad. I was definitely confused by some things in the main spaceship area. Like I couldn't open things when I tried to. I was trying to go to like the upgrades or switch my character, and things weren't working. And I don't know if they ever will, or if I was doing something wrong, or they're not implemented. So it's still in. I think they're still saying this is in beta, right? Like this mod.
Yeah.
So there's definitely jank in there. I did a mission by myself, and I was probably half an hour in, and then I got stuck in like an object that no matter what I did, I couldn't get out. So it sucks. I was almost done with that mission, so I couldn't finish it. And then
Were
I
you
think go ahead.
were you drilling into a wall and then you got stuck or something?
No,
Okay.
no, yeah, it's something else. The other thing that I wasn't aware of, and maybe I missed this during our interview or somewhere, is that like what's cool about Deep Rock Galactic, it's really a co-op game that you don't want to play this game by yourself. You can, but that's not where the fun is. And what you want to do, there's four classes of miners. There's an engineer, there's a scout, there's a gunner, there's a driller. Like you want to have four people playing, and everybody is like one of those. Well, when you use the mod, and this I guess this probably goes for any mod in Deep Rock. It's a mod friendly game. Everybody else has to have that same mods, and I didn't realize that. And I joined, I hosted a game, and nobody was joining. I was like, what the hell's going on? Because normally in Deep Rock, there's such a healthy player base. It's huge. Like, you host a game, like, somebody will immediately always join. You'll have like a full squad. So that was kind of a bummer. That I'm like, oh no, like, the whole fun of it is playing with other people. So now if I wanna do the VR, like, I really have to organize like a group of friends and schedule time. And I'm guessing that Discord we could find people to play with, but that's a huge, like, took the wind out of my sails for me. And there's that's not like the modders' fault. I guess that's just the way the game works. I wish though I could just play seamlessly with everybody else in crossplay, because this game, Justin, is on it's on Xbox. I'm assuming it's on PlayStation. Like, it's crossplay, so there's a lot of people that play this game, and that's where the fun is. So you and I can set up a time to play. I'd be happy to. It still wouldn't be the same experience without two other people. Would be my argument. But
maybe two other people in the Discord, maybe.
Yeah, we might have to Russell. We could probably get Goran. Or the
I'm on another VR Discord where some people want to play it too.
Yeah, well, I'll have to carve out some time. I'll be out of town and stuff for a little bit, but so dude, I'm really glad this mod exists. It's only gonna get better. My recommendation, and I mentioned this to you when you were going into, is if you're listening to this and you're interested and you want to play this game, play the game in 2D first. Just play the base game before you add the mod in there, because it's going to be so much easier to understand what's going on. This is not the most complicated game in the world, but there are still things to understand about it and nuances and different mission types that it's going to be it's going to be really hard to go into VR and figure it out. But at least if you play in 2D and you hop into a game with other people, you can ask some questions, you'll learn. Then when you're ready to hop into VR, it won't be as bad, especially because this is not a native VR game, so there's not really that kind of hand-holding that would normally be in a game like this that's in VR. So you've got to kind of rely on your knowledge of how the game works in 2D to get it. Otherwise I can see people being frustrated.
Okay, I have a question. I noticed the flare was attached to my right arm.
Yeah.
And I grabbed it with my left arm. So then what I wanted to throw the flares with my right arm, but I guess you can't. You have to use your left arm to throw.
Yeah, 100%. That was a bizarre choice. I want to go in their Discord and ask them that. That's like the first thing I noticed. Like, most people are right-handed.
Yeah.
Throwing flares is a really important thing in the game. You're like always throwing flares so you can see, because these caves are dark. Why on earth did they put them on the right hand and you got to throw with the left hand? Makes no sense unless the person was just left-handed and just like, fuck all you righties. I had no idea. It's like, welcome to my world as a left-handed person.
I could barely throw the damn thing any distance. I don't know. My left shoulder screwed up, but I don't know if it's could you get it to go very far with your left hand?
No, and it's the throw seemed pretty good. You know what I mean? Like, the physics of the throwing it seemed good, and that was like a nice touch in this VR, that you can actually throw the flares rather than hit like whatever the key it is in 2D, right? Like, so that was really cool. But yeah, it's not a natural movement. It's something that you kind of constantly need to be doing. So at least if they can give that option in VR, like Resident Evil has, a lot of these games, like Resident Evil, I think has it. GTFO is really good. They have like a VR menu, right? Like, by default, I would argue that should definitely be on your left hand, so you can throw with your right by default. Yeah. But at the least, if you're going to make it default on that, give the player the option, or there's got to be a way to switch it around. That's a really bizarre choice. I want to go in the Discord and ask them what's up with that. I'm not like eager to hop back into that game right now. I want to see it kind of progress, but I also want to play it at some point, right? So
yeah.
But overall, this is like the quintessential game to make in VR. It's really good. Like, if I was Oculus Studios, I would totally be talking to the development team that made Deep Rock Galactic and trying to bring it natively to the Quest 2 or whatever the next headset is. Like, this game would absolutely crush, and it's proven to be a highly successful 2D game. It just is to me, it's like the perfect game to put in VR. It's co-op. It's got a good community where you're not fighting each other. You're working as a team. The graphics are kind of cool, like the way they're stylized, but not overly demanding on your system. So you can totally pull this off like in a Quest. Yeah, it just makes me. It's times like this when I get so close to like this would be so perfect, and you've got to play a mod that's trying to do all it can on making use of like a game that's 2D. But you know in your heart that if this was built from VR from the ground up, then it would just be one of the best VR experiences. Period.
Yeah, there's a game that's sort of like it called Cave Digger, but it's nowhere near as good as. And Cave Digger doesn't have co-op, as far as I know. Cave Digger 2, I think, is what I'm thinking of.
Yeah, no, this game, there's a lot to. I mean, people in the 2D game have just logged in hundreds and hundreds of hours. Like, it's a game that you can just really fall into. There's seasons, so you can get more cosmetics. You can keep on upgrading your character, which the upgrade screen I don't think was working in VR. Like, the season screen wasn't working in VR, so you're missing that like feedback loop of progression. I guess you could just hop into the 2D thing, but again, there's a level of jank and bugs that need to be worked out. So I'm glad that Frisian Alchemist released it and let people just hop in. I think this is when more bugs will come to light and more demand from the community, so that they can keep on working. And they're working on this game actively still. So the mod should only get better over time. But it's off to a good start. I highly recommend Deep Rock Galactic if like you like the idea of like playing a co-op game. Just understand some of the limitations that currently exist.
Yeah, one more thing about it. When I played flat, like the tutorial and stuff, when I was digging these tunnels into the rock, I felt like claustrophobic, and that's not something I normally ever feel. I felt claustrophobic as hell, and I felt like I was being scared that I was going to be stuck in these tunnels. But when I was in VR, I didn't have that claustrophobic feeling. I don't know if it's because I have more of a view and like not just this little window like on a flat game. I didn't feel claustrophobic anymore.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah,
I don't know why.
yeah, it's interesting. But it's awesome being in these caves in VR, like exploring it. Like it's really cool.
Yeah. So another VR mod I played. There's a it's free now. A Firewatch VR mod. So this game Firewatch, I don't know, came out a few years ago, and it's an exploration game through the forest. You're like a park ranger, and you have a radio where you're talking to this other female park ranger as you explore. And I think it's a pretty cool story, and definitely worth it because it looks great just walking through the forest. It's like this kind of like this open world forest, and you kind of it's kind of a mystery, and that you're figuring things out as you go. So that was cool. Then Pray for the Gods is another VR mod by the same guy that did the Firewatch mod. His name's something like Raiku Parta. He does really good. He did the Outer Wilds VR mod. So Pray for the Gods. If you like Shadow of the Colossus for PlayStation 2, and they had a PlayStation 3 like HD version, it's like that. I only got to the first monster and climbed that one. You played in third person instead of first person. I don't think there's a way to do first person, but it was still, the scale of this monster is still amazing, because even playing third person, you're still like looking up at this giant ass monster. So that was cool. Left 4 Dead, there's a VR mod for that now, a free VR mod. I had to jump through some hoops to get it working right. At first, I couldn't get like it to work at all. Then I couldn't see my hands or the weapons, and I fixed all that. Figured out how to fix, because I went on the GitHub issues page and posted there, and people will help you if you have an issue. But then the main problem I had was the resolution was so low. It was like really low resolution that it wasn't even, you didn't even want to play it. So the motion controls work, but it's like they're mapped to one hand. So when you move your right hand, you see both arms in the game move around. So your left hand doesn't do anything. So like you'll be holding the gun with both arms, and that's all attached to your right arm. Or you'll be holding an axe with both hands, and you have to press the trigger to swing the axe, or to shoot the gun. I was reading that there's a way to make it higher res that people have figured out, and I was trying to do that, but I wasn't successful, so I don't know. It has multiplayer. The latest update to this mod added multiplayer, so maybe you'd be interested in it. But I don't know. It might be too many hoops to jump through, Nick.
Yeah, I'm definitely. I mean, like, there's always hoops with these mods, right? These non-native VR
Mm-hmm.
mods, right? It's just how many hoops, right? And how aggravating and how good is the mod? And right now it doesn't seem like it's ready for me to jump to those
Yeah.
hoops. It's gotta.
Yeah.
I'll wait till hear that it's like, my God, you've got to check this out. It's
Mm-hmm.
either like, if I'm gonna jump through hoops, it's got to be an amazing VR experience, or if I'm gonna check it out, even if it's not an amazing VR experience, to at least like it's really easy to just do this mod and then hop in, right? So it's
Yeah.
not there for me.
Okay, so this other thing I checked out was Pod Racer VR. This is free. It was on itch.io. So if you just type in Pod Racer VR itch.io, you'll see it. That was cool. I recommend trying that, especially if you like Star Wars at all. It's like the pod racing scenes from episode 1, and you use your motion controls. So, your left hand and your right hand, there are these handlebars, and you push them forward to go forward, and you turn by putting one of your hands forward and the other one back on the other handlebar, or pull them both back to slow down. And it was really fast. So if you have motion sickness issues, you're probably gonna have an issue with this. But I thought that was really cool. There were like 3 different pod racers you could choose, and there were 2 levels. And it's free, so there's no reason not to try it. There was no music though. I guess maybe for copyright issues, he didn't put any like Star Wars music in it. But he's probably gonna add something like that. So another game I tried, Paranormal Detective: Escape from the '80s. That's just an escape room with this '80s theme. So there's skateboards and power gloves and VHS players and all sorts. There's all sorts of little things in there that you'll remember from the '80s, like a speak and spell toys in there that you got to use for some of the puzzles. And there's an arcade cabinet, and it has this like bomb. This bombs are coming down, and you have to catch. It might have been you have to catch like NES cartridges that are dropping. That was pretty. It was only like $5 on sale or something, I think. So, I mean, that was pretty good for an escape room. Kayak VR Mirage. This I have like it's kind of like a beta version of this game, so I have access to 3 levels. There's a free demo on Steam for this game where you can try this one canyon level, but there's 2 other levels: an Antarctica level and then this like Nordic level and they'll have different. There's a night, and then there's the daytime, and then like the Nordic level has a storm. So while you're kayaking, there's lightning and rain. And the graphics there's some of the best graphics you're ever going to see in VR. And this is releasing this month. So definitely look out for that if you're into that. So you can race other people's times. There's no like actual multiplayer. I don't know if they're going to try to add that. Or you can just do free roam. Some people in the Discord were saying they felt sick playing this. But I don't ever get motion sick, so I'm not a good judge. But I don't know. Maybe you got to be careful with that one. You can actually use the paddle to push off of rocks and push off of stuff in the environment, which I think is really cool.
Yeah, that's cool. That game always looks really good in the screenshots.
Yeah. Then I tried Tentacular. That was the game by Devolver Digital where you're a giant octopus, and you just you use your 2 motion controls to control these 2 giant octopus arms. And you're interacting with these little. It's kind of a little bit of a kiddie game because it's cutesy kind of graphics, and you're helping people on this island. And it wasn't that interesting to me. And the main reason was the controls, like dealing with these octopus appendages to pick everything up. It was really tough, and it kind of annoying because like you don't have fingers, and you're just picking them up with your suction cups. And like it was just to do the most basic task, it was sometimes kind of annoying just to get like to pick up a box and try to get the box into wherever they wanted it to go. It was only okay. Then I finally played Moss, the Twilight Garden DLC, just because the Moss 2 came out. That made me want to go back into that. So I went through all of that, and I recommend that. Lone Echo 2, I beat that. Like, I hate having a game like just sitting there that I've like mostly played it, but I haven't beaten it yet. I have this need to beat it. So I beat that game, even though I don't like it. I don't recommend it at all. It looks great. But it's just not fun. It's
Yeah.
just not.
Yeah,
Like,
dude. Yeah.
yeah, it's so slow paced,
Yeah.
and there's so many cutscenes with just characters talking and talking and talking. Just stay away.
Yeah, I grinded through the first one. I never beat it. I just finally gave
Hmm.
up because I just was like, it's gonna get good, right? Like because
Yeah.
everyone's like, oh, Lone Echo, blah blah blah, and like it just never. This is like the classic. You look back on video gaming systems, and there was like an impressive game came out for that system, and everybody played it, but wasn't just a great game, right? Like that's Lone Echo. I don't know. I don't know. But anyways, good on you for grinding through it. It's a good it's a good quality way. You really got like a stick to itiveness, for better or for worse.
Yeah. With some things, not with other things. Anyway, the next game I played was Path of the Warrior. That's another Oculus exclusive. It's a beat 'em up, so it's kind of like Final Fight or Streets of Rage, but in VR, in first person. So you're punching with your actual fists, and it's kind of weird. There's a button you press to kick, because obviously they can't track your legs really with an Oculus. So you just press a button and you see this leg, flying back and forth. So you could just like walk up to everyone and just kick, 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 just tap, 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 tap on the button and kill them. It was done really well, and like I was impressed by it, but like I just kind of got tired of punching and kicking because it's just a lot of the same thing.
Yeah,
The
I played
yeah,
that game when it came out. That was maybe like 2 years ago.
yeah, it was a while.
But yeah, I speaking of games I haven't beaten. Yeah, I got 2 point on that. I think I was like in the arcade level boss,
Uh-huh.
and I was just like at that point I was done.
Yeah, yeah. The bosses are where they change it up more. Like finally, you have like the bosses have different attack patterns. You have to figure out what you have to do to beat them. But the fighting the regular enemies just got really boring to me. Um, I don't know. So, Song in the Smoke. I reviewed this on one of our previous shows. I beat that, and I fucking loved that. Song in the Smoke. I mean, you're all alone, survival. You're like a caveman, building fires, hunting animals, trying to survive. It's one of these exploration games that I love, and I couldn't recommend it more to someone that's into that type of game. I loved it. Polygon Nightmare. That's a game. If you've ever heard of Dactyl Nightmare, that was a very early VR game that had in arcades on these old ass VR headsets that were giant. They were like supported by a
Oh yeah, in the '90s
yeah
you're talking about.
yeah in the
Yeah,
90s.
anybody who's like seen VR in the '90s, that's what they show
Yeah.
mostly. Yeah.
Yeah, so Polygon Nightmare is a free game on Oculus that is just like Dactyl Nightmare if you want to try that out. And there might be two player, I don't know. I just played it single player. But I mean that's cool if you want to see what Dactyl Nightmare is like in VR. Then a Dragon Fist VR Kung Fu that got haptic support, and so I tried that out, and that was cool. But when I'm in the middle of a fight, I'm trying so hard to survive that I'm not even like I wasn't even really paying attention to the haptic feedback much. I was just too focused on trying to kick the other guy's ass. I don't know. And of
No,
course,
it makes sense.
you're only gonna feel it on your body, at least in my case, because I only have the body vest. Um, Everslot, I tried that again. I had that before, and then I refunded it, and then I bought it again because it has haptic support. And then I felt the same way I did before. I just don't really like this game much. I'm not sure why. Most people seem to like it. Until You Fall, I went into that thinking it had like native haptic support, but I think it's only a mod, and then I didn't bother to do the mod. That game is hard as hell. I suck at that. Have you ever tried Until You Fall?
Yeah, I got it when it first came out. Played it for a while, and this is one of these loop games, right?
Yeah.
These what are they
Roguelite?
called? Roguelike, right?
Yeah.
Like roguelike is just a word that we've invented in the last 5 years to say that there's not a lot of real content in terms of moving forward in a story. It just repeats itself and gets harder, and
Yeah.
people falling for that. Like a lot of people like it, so I probably make some people upset when I say that. But back in the day, I feel like you wouldn't have this would not be a good game. Like that's not a good mechanic. But yeah, I mean, until you fall, like I get why people like it. It's played it for a while and it's tough. It will get you moving. I think that's like a good like accidental workout game.
Yeah.
But like a lot of these things that they're good for a few hours in my book and then I move on.
Yeah. Yeah. And once you get to these difficult enemies, you have to block very specifically. And I don't like having to like have my sword at a specific angle in order to block. And I'm just not fast enough. But you could put it on a lower difficulty. I haven't tried that.
Yeah, it's kind of like a rhythm game in a sense, right?
Yeah.
Like a combat rhythm game.
Yeah. Yeah. So then I went into VR Paradise again because there's some new DLC, so I wanted to try that out. And I haven't been in a relationship with a woman for a while now because mine has fallen apart. So this has been a little I can pretend I pretend there's some woman interested in me in VR Paradise. So then Guilford Castle VR is a free VR demo where you can walk around this castle in England, and that was kind of cool. It looked pretty cool. If you're interested in like castles and history stuff. Vermilion is this VR painting app. I only played it once because I'm not really interested in painting. If you're into painting, it's probably great. I don't know why I bought it. I think I was just looking for something to buy. Larcenauts. I might have played that with you. Yeah, we played that together, and that was the last time I played it. Then the final game was Traffic Jams. I don't recommend that at all. That was like in a free bundle, so it doesn't have finger tracking, which is weird. You have to press specific buttons on your controller to do these like street traffic crossing guard motions on your controller. So instead of like to point, you don't actually point with your controller. You have to press like the A button to point, and you have to press the B button to do this. So I don't recommend that.
I'm looking at Guilford Castle because he was like, oh, castles are kind of cool. It's free. I'm looking at this one post, a review. This person says, I live around 10 miles from Guildford, a town I know quite well, although I've never visited the castle. This is an absolute gem of a VR experience. Dude, go to the fucking castle.
Yeah.
This is not for you.
Wow.
This is hilarious. Like, oh my God. That's is
funny.
For me who would have to hop on a plane just to see a castle. Like, I'll hit the free download button and maybe put a helmet on my head.
Yeah. Yeah. I live near DC and I never go to anything around here. But yeah, if an app popped up showing all these DC monuments, I'd probably go check it out. And then never go to the monuments in real life.
That's funny.
So that's it.
All right, let's see. What did I play? I did play some games. We played Warplanes, which will Battle Over Pacific, which we'll review. Vox Machina, I must have hopped in it once. Pop 1, I don't even remember playing it. Elven Assassin, I barely played it. Resident Evil 2, I spent some time with. Disc Valley Golf, I think I clicked on it by accident. That's why it showed up. Walkabout, I think I might have played some Walkabout. God, I can't remember this. And I tried Star Wars Squadrons because regrettably I kept on purchasing that game, hoping it would work one day. And like, I think again when I tried playing it, it wasn't working. So now I just like I hate myself for the fact that I wasted $30 on that game. But that's not the first time I've wasted money on a VR game. So
it wasn't working. You mean the performance was bad?
No, just literally the game wasn't literally not working. Period.
Oh shit! I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then, like the reviews at the time were saying like it's broke again. So like the whole thing's just a fucking dumpster fire that I should just hide the game on my Steam VR list so I don't see it.
Wow.
Yeah. So I'm not salty about that at all. It's all good.
That's one of those ones I've been meaning to go back to, but even I just don't. I'm just not that interested in that type of game. I don't know.
it had its moment, right? And like this is a bad launch. Like it had its moment where it should have been awesome. It should have been launched right. It should have been worked in VR, and it didn't. And it was even janky in 2D, and it's not even that particularly great game. And yeah, that's it's too bad. It's what a waste of money. Um, what are you gonna do?
Yeah.
So yeah, that was it. It's been a light month. Resident Evil 2 is the shining thing in my VR right now. I think like Pop One, I like Pop One. You and I play Pop One. I think again, like when we get to like the fall and winter, that's always a fun game to pop in because they keep on updating it. And by every time we like walk away from that game for a while and come back, like it's like, oh, look what they've done, and it's fun, and you get into it. So that's a game that's been good in my library, and I've gotten a lot of time out of it, and I'll hop in. Disc Golf Valley, like I said, I clicked on it probably by accident. Like that game should be really good, but the developer like stopped working on it. Like Disc Golf Valley is a like a mobile game that they brought to VR. So somebody must have got permission in the company or worked on it, and it actually is pretty damn good in VR. It just needs like multiplayer. I mean, it needs like other things and maybe some like updates that the mobile game has certainly gotten it, but it's just been like forgotten about. And again, like that's the kind of game that I'm like, if you bring that to Quest, like they would probably start printing money. I mean, disc golf is huge now. That game felt of the like couple disc golf games I've played, that game felt the best. Um it's not a pure simulation, it's not pure arcade, it's a nice kind of fun balance where I think they did a good job with the VR. Putting feels fantastic in that game. Yeah, it's kind of a bummer. I mean, I had fun for a few hours, but I was hoping that they would continue working on that game, and I would love to God, that game would be so much fun to hop in the game with friends. It'd be like, playing Walkabout, like that kind of level, only disc golf. So I don't know. Maybe it's not completely giving up hope, but I would say at this point, seeing no update, I have no idea. Maybe they just abandoned it. All right, let's go to the news. What do we got?
Oh yeah, speaking of Walkabout, there was just a new course just came out, DLC.
Dude, Walkabout's crushing it. I love
Yeah.
Walkabout. I haven't played it really much in a while, but like anytime I hop into, I'm like, this game's so good.
Yeah, I haven't played in a while too, but yeah, I need to go back into it. Yeah, all these mods are what I've been doing.
Yeah, but now though, I'd be a jackass if I played Walkabout Mini Golf because there's like mini golf plays 5 minutes from me. I should take my girlfriend and I should go play there.
Yeah.
Like this is the time. Like I should not be playing mini golf in VR unless it's raining and I need a fix. But
Does she
that's where I'm at.
does she like mini golf?
She'll go. Like who doesn't like mini golf? You know what I
Yeah.
mean? Like it's one of those things to do. Like it's so funny during the winter and the pandemic when you're not doing anything, like you're playing Walkabout. I was playing Walkabout mini golf. We were doing a league in the Discord, and it's like, oh my god, I can't wait to go and play mini golf. And then it gets nice, and I'm like, I was like, shit, I didn't do that. So, yeah, I'll have to put on my radar. I'll have to go play some mini golf. It's always kind of fun for an hour here and there. You go mini golfing like twice a year, the way you maybe go bowling once a year. It's one of those things that you just do in life.
Yeah, the last time I did mini golf, it was at a mini golf course like by a beach, and it had all these animatronic dinosaurs at each hole. It was awesome.
Yeah, dude, some are really cool. And there was I think the guy's name is Brooks Holt. I'm sorry if I'm butchering his name, but I was watching like this YouTube channel he has where he would just travel around with his girlfriend, like around the country, just playing mini golf courses. And it's kind of like one of those like YouTube rabbit holes that you fall down and you just watch. So I was watching. There was a period during the pandemic where I was just watching that.
Wow. All right. So yeah, there have been a lot of VR mods that have come out lately. So Elden Ring has been one of the most popular ones, but I still haven't tried it because I don't feel like buying Elden Ring for $60, and this is not my type of game. I never have been into those Dark Souls games or Bloodborne and all that shit. But there's also a mod you can add to it where you can get co-op. So if anybody out there wants co-op in Elden Ring in VR, you can do that apparently. That's a Luke Ross mod, and those mods use this alternate eye rendering that it just kind of looks weird. you did you ever try one of his mods? I probably asked you that before.
No, I have not. I mean, I've heard
Okay.
enough about it to stay away from it. What about the Did we talk about the Wolfenstein? Did you try that mod?
I tried it and I didn't like it looked weird to me.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this Wolfenstein New Order mod, it got some sort of semi motion controller support, but I think you had to add on some other additional thing to make that work. I'm not sure how well that works. But yeah, I went into it, and when I was moving my head around, the scene was just kind of moving strangely as I moved my head. But a friend of mine tried it and he liked it and said it worked great for him. So I don't know if I had something set up wrong or who
No,
knows.
I don't think I was trying to read between the lines, and it's not like when we talk about Deep Rock Galactic mod, where it's got full motion controls, you're standing in. Like
Hmm.
the Wolfenstein isn't like that. There's some jankiness where you're like aiming the gun with your head, and there's a
Yeah.
debate about that. I was like, I don't want that shit. Like it's either VR or it's not VR. Like that's it. I'm not gonna. I just can't deal with that.
I could play with a controller if, it looks good. And when I move my head, if it, the whole, see, I was moving my head and then the world seemed like it was moving too. It's hard to describe. It's like what that feels like.
Doesn't what you're describing does not. I don't want any of that.
Yeah, I don't
That's
either.
yeah. You get spoiled. Like maybe if like you didn't have VR and that's the first you played, your first foray into VR, be like, this is amazing, and you just holler. But like you've been in this since 2014. I've been in 2017. Like it's just like I'm not that desperate, right? Like the bar increases, right, as time goes on of what we consider acceptable and what we're gonna deal with in VR.
Yeah, and there's already too much out there to play as it is right now, I think. When you count all the
Yeah,
mods.
yeah, I think so too.
Yes, and we talked about Resident Evil 7 and 8, and we talked about Deep Rock Galactic. That open beta started recently. There's Quake 3 now on side quests for Quest 2. I don't know if it's on Quest also, but I don't have a Quest, so I can't try that. I would love to try that because I love fast-paced FPS games like that. Left 4 Dead we talked about. There's something called the Dark mod. If you like Thief games, did you ever play Thief on PC?
No, it's not my cup of tea. I'm aware of those games because they've been around for 20 plus years, I believe,
Yeah.
even
Yeah,
since the
so
late 90s.
I didn't know about this until I heard about this mod, but there's something called the Dark mod that you can get for free on PC. Just Google the Dark mod, and I think to people that like Thief, it's like maybe the best version of Thief out there. Even it's like it's not an actual official game. It's a fan project. Well, there's a VR mod now for it, so you could try that out. And the Half-Life 2 VR dev is the guy who made the VR mod, so it's probably good. That Half-Life 2 VR mod will come out probably really soon. So Firewatch, as I said, that's became free. The same developer of that mod is working on the Stanley Parable Deluxe mod right now. That'll probably come out soon. The Stanley Parable Deluxe came out recently on Steam, so it's not the original. I don't know how much difference is there between this deluxe version and the original, the Stanley Parable. So some other big news was there's some sort of, I don't know if this is a leak, but there will be 4 new Meta headsets by 2024. So we already know about the codename Cambria that's going to come out this year, probably around September. Then there's a codename Stinson that's going to come out in 2023, and everyone thinks that's going to be the Quest 3. Then there's codename Funston that's going to come out in 2024, which is supposed to be the next version of Cambria. And then there's codename Cardiff, which is also coming out in 2024, which will be the next Quest. It might be Quest 4, it might be Quest 3 Pro, who knows. So about Cambria, like Zuckerberg has said, like this is where they're trying to make this a laptop replacement, but the res of that will be 2160 by 2160 per eye, and I don't think that's high enough res yet. Maybe they think Funston in 2024 could maybe be a laptop replacement. I'm not sure. And recently there were 2 Cambria videos, and one of them had Mark Zuckerberg using Cambria, but they kept the Cambria all pixelated. so you couldn't see it at all, which is funny because there have been so many leaks about the Cambria, and even the very detailed schematics have leaked recently, where you can see every little bit, every little part that's in the Cambria. If you want to look that up.
Well,
And
let me
he,
ask you
yeah,
this though. So the Cambria is not a gaming headset the way the Quest is. It's like instead of they're competing for somebody who's going to go out and buy a laptop computer. They're trying to compete with that and have this VR headset. Is that
yeah,
what you're saying?
and they're also saying it's more focused on work. So yeah, maybe that they're gonna go for, yeah, this is a laptop replacement and try to sell it that way. But it
It's
has,
really interesting. That's
yeah,
really interesting.
it has eye and face tracking, so they want you to be able to be more social with it. So probably for meetings, because they have, meeting software they already have, and it's gonna have a depth sensor, whereas Quest 2 didn't have that. They just had a guess depth. It has a built-in depth, and then the cameras will have 3 times the resolution of Quest 2. It's gonna have pancake lenses that make it much lighter instead of the traditional like Fresnel lenses. So these pancake lenses are thinner, and they can make the front of the headset thinner also. A problem with pancake lenses that I've heard is that they're not as optically efficient, so they don't let as much light through. So you end up having to make the display a lot brighter to compensate for that. But in those videos, they were just like, Zuckerberg was messing with this little cartoon animal. It just looked very kiddie, which is weird. I thought they're focusing this, I thought, toward, high-end work users, but all the stuff he was doing, the mixed reality stuff, what didn't look impressive at all. So I don't know what they're doing with that.
Yeah, their marketing and when they showcase things is just so terrible. It just
Yeah.
it misses the mark. And I don't think it just misses the mark for you and I, these VR enthusiast nerds, but I think it just like I don't know, who is it hitting, or what's the audience for that? I don't know. I'm confused by it. I think I saw a really quick snippet, so I have a vague idea of what you're talking about, but I don't know.
And they say the price is going to be significantly higher than $800.
Wow. Yeah, all right. I'm really interested to see what they're doing. I have like very little judgment on it.
Yeah.
It's just a wait and see.
Yes. My biggest issue with Quest 2 and Quest was the comfort. So this thing's going to have the battery in the back, it looks like. So there'll be a lot less weight in the front. And so if it can play everything the Quest 2 can, maybe I'll get one. And if it's good for PC VR also, maybe. I don't know. So another thing, PSVR 2 will have 20 plus major first and third party titles at launch, Sony said. I don't know what they mean by major. I'm betting a lot of these are just going to be old games that we already knew about. But they recently had a state of play video where they showed Horizon Call of the Mountain, and they've told us that it's going to have a full campaign and an immersive river ride experience. So I was worried from previous footage that all it was going to be was this little like river ride experience thing, because that's all they had showed. But this new footage that they just showed at the state of play showed like what looked like a full campaign. So like you're climbing ladders with your hands, you're using a bow and arrow. I mean, and it looks really good. And so it looks like a real game. So that's good. They showed Resident Evil 8 gameplay. So that's coming to PSVR 2. But I don't care now. I already beat Resident Evil 8, in VR on my PC with the Prey Dog mod. But some good news is they showed Resident Evil 4 Remake is coming out. I think it's the first time it's ever been announced. And they said it's going to have VR content. So I'm betting it's just going to be some little extra side thing, like maybe a wave shooter or some crap. Because I bet Oculus bought the rights to RE4 in VR. So they can't do this remake for PSVR 2. But this remake is coming to PC. So we'll end up getting that in VR with Prey Dogs mods because it's running on the same engine.
Oh, that's good for. There you go. PC wins once. I didn't really I didn't beat Resident Evil 4. It was fun for a while, but it just drags on and just really didn't do anything for me. In the long run, like I gave it a positive review. I felt good about it. It was fun, but like after a certain point, things feel repetitious. But that's me with Resident Evil games. People love that, and I'm not a Resident Evil fan per se. So
Resident Evil 4 is more of an action game. Was that what bored you? But you like action, so
yeah, I don't know. It just like I think like the environments weren't as interesting. Like the village was just like the how it looked. So, like the browns and
the browns
stuff. I mean, plus I'm playing also at the heart of it. I'm playing a game from 2004 for GameCube. You know, the Resident Evil 2 remake for PC that we're playing modded, like that. Just like the atmosphere is just way more interesting. Like there's times where I'm like screaming, you know, kind of deal, or like jumping. Like Resident Evil 4, it never really had those moments that much. It wasn't as atmospheric as that. But I think that might also just be because I'm playing a game from 2004. So I don't know.
The remake, it looked like they're trying to make it more atmospheric and more horror. So you might like that one.
Yeah, probably wasting my time playing the other one.
So another thing that came out, which, you know, I'm not actually interested in this, but Pimax announced the Crystal QLED headset, is what they're calling it. It's going to be $18.99. It's a wireless headset with 2880 by 2720 per eye mini LED. What that means is it's going to have thousands of LEDs as the backlight. The screen will still be LCD. It's very confusing because there's the term mini LED and then there's micro LED. Well, micro LED is where the LEDs are the actual display. We don't have anything like that yet. Micro LED is still from what I read, that's a tough technology to get working, especially in small form factors. And it gets really hot. And I don't think they've really figured out how to deal with that, especially on a really small form factor. So micro LED, it's usually now, I think, really big displays. Like if you want a giant projector size screen, that's what that's good for. It'll have swappable lenses with either, this is weird to me, either 110 degree field of view or 120, which I don't know why you're going to bother swapping out your lenses and like risk getting dust and shit on your display for that difference. I don't know. I was wondering what the hell's the difference between this and the other one that they announced. They previously announced the Reality 12K QLED, which is going to be 200 degrees field of view, but that one will have onboard body tracking, and it's going to be $23.99.
I can't believe Pimax is still a thing.
I can't either.
You know, like because it's just like seems like a jank fest and these marketing BS promises that are just really stretching the limits of imagination in terms of what truth is in marketing. I don't know. I mean, and then also how big is the market? They're only saving grace right now is that, you know, we don't have a competitor in the PC gaming space for VR headsets. You know, I'm sorry, Index came out 3 years ago. I think we hit the 3-year mark.
Yeah, probably.
You know, with nothing new coming up. So this is I guess this is their time to run rampant and try to sell to everybody who wants to deal with some jank and just needs to have that, you know, number go up on their resolution. I don't know. But to play what also? Like the games have been so like not like, you know, motivating. Well, like
a lot of the people that want these headsets are flight sim guys or maybe racing sim guys.
All right, thank you for helping to clarify that. Yeah, that makes sense. I can racing sim guys and flight guys. I get it now. So put your pitchforks down. Okay, I get it. Listen, I hope for all of us we get a real PC headset. This is not looking good though. Valve is not looking good. We're gonna have the Valve Index 3 years from now using that thing on life support.
Oh yeah, and there was a Reddit post where some guy said that they're almost done working on their wireless solution for Index. Like he had a video of him using some wireless thing that he's some third party guy who's making his like Index wireless adapter. I don't know if it's actually going to come out, but it was on Reddit. I put it on the Discord in the VR hardware section.
Yeah, I saw that.
Yeah. So I thought this was interesting. Zero Latency is a location-based VR place. They have locations all over the world. I went to the one in Vegas, and I did it a few years ago where they had backpack PCs, and they had pretty low-quality headsets that I was using at the time. And it still was really, really cool because you don't have to use any artificial walking or turning ever. You have this big open area and you walk around everywhere, and that's what was so unique about it. And they have their own proprietary games, like they have Far Cry VR, Undead Arena, Singularity, and Soul Raiders. I got to try Singularity. Far Cry wasn't out yet, and that was really cool and really intense. Where it was me and I don't know, maybe it might have been like 10 people total, all running around in the same room, not seeing each other in real life. We're seeing each other in VR, and it's all synced up, so you don't run into anybody because you see their character in VR, and we're running around fighting all these robots and flying drones and shit in this like sci-fi world. It was really cool. But the news was they're gonna switch to Vive Focus 3s, which are wireless headsets, and because they have Wi-Fi 6E, which can go up to 6 gigahertz. And I looked it up to Quest 2. Quest 2 can't do 6E. It can do just Wi-Fi 6. So I'm wondering if headsets start moving to Wi-Fi 6E, if the wireless is going to get even better, if this big company Zero Latency decided to... Because like I haven't heard much about Vive Focus 3 until this story. So they won't have backpack PCs anymore. It'll just all be wirelessly streamed to these headsets. And I'm just curious how well that'll work. So I've been to Zero Latency and I've been to the Void twice, but the Void is closed down. But I read something where they might be coming back. The Void was cool as hell because, well, the difference was the Void, you're actually going to interact with physical objects and stuff that are in the room that are mapped to the game. Like I walked up to a sink in the Ghostbusters experience in the game, and then I felt, and there was an actual sink there and there's all sorts of things like heat and cold and wind and vibration and all sorts of stuff at the Void. So I hope stuff like that comes back eventually. Zero Latency, it was just one big open area. There were no like crazy effects going on. So then, as far as releases, The Last Clockwinder came out June 2nd. I haven't tried that. Green Hell for PC VR is coming out June 9th. Kayak VR Mirage is coming out June 28th. F1 22 by EA, that's coming out July 1st, and we'll have VR support. And then there's this game called Lon. I don't know if you've ever seen it. LONN. They released a trailer that's pretty impressive. It's coming out sometime in 2022. It sort of looks like it's physics based, so it's sort of like Boneworks, but it looks like Half-Life a little bit. It looks like some sort of cyberpunk game. So you might be interested in that. And that's about all I have as far as news.
All right, very good, very, very, very good. That made me think you're talking about the Zero Latency backpack and these sites where you go and have these experiences. That made me think about Space Pirate Trainer DX. God.
Yeah, I want to try that.
I know. I know all these people with like headsets, and I've not done that. But also, the game's $25, and I feel like I'd play it once.
Oh yeah, you have to. I didn't think about that. You'd have to buy it again. I didn't know it's that expensive. Okay.
Yeah, it's got like almost 5 stars and 3,200 ratings. So 3,200 ratings on the Quest store. So people are playing it. I don't know. I mean, it's pretty interesting. Anyways, let's go to the review for the show. So this is Warplanes Battles Over Pacific. It's by Home Net Games. Came out March 30th, 2022. It is $14.99. It sits at 81% on Steam, and Quest App Lab says 4.5 out of 5 for the rating. you brought my attention to this game because you knew I liked the Warplanes, the World War One version, and I kind of liked it, and I was hot on
Mm-hmm.
it. And like I had like, I remember in my review I had this description of saying like I was like just kind of blown away, like first loading it up and sitting in these like World War One, biplanes, and just the feeling of that was really cool. It's one of those, I think we have fewer and fewer between like awesome, like in awe VR moments as being kind of VR veterans at this point. But that gave me one, and that was really cool. And then like, I bring this up because I'm gonna spoiler alert. This is a short review for me because this is really just the same exact game but with different planes. Like that's it. It's like a reskin. Um, and I find World War One planes more interesting, especially with like the open cockpit. You kind of gives you a sense of wow that's lost to me on the World War Two planes, which are enclosed. Um, but my review of the first one was generally positive. I think my criticism was that it had a campaign, but the campaign felt very soulless. It would set up scenarios, but everything kind of felt samey, or you're kind of going with either really stupid odds where you as one plane are crushing all these planes and the planes are flying around the same, or if you jack up the difficulty, you're getting crushed. Like there's nothing to keep me going, even though one could argue that there was content there and that there was a bunch of campaign missions and there's a bunch of planes and you can upgrade. So I think for me at the time, it ran well. The price point was great. It like the experience alone of just feeling like I was in a plane was cool, but it didn't have anything to keep me in the longevity, despite having multiplayer. And I will say the same. I'm just gonna do my review in one fell swoop and let cut you loose, Justin, because this is just the nature of this. I've only spent maybe an hour in this game. Um, that game didn't hold my attention. This game held my attention even less because the planes are less interesting and it's just more of the same. So I guess the way I would frame this game for anybody, first of all, I mean, $14.99 is a great price point. If you're remotely interested in like a World War II airplane game, like this is kind of the only game in town. So you might as well grab it and enjoy it for what's there. For me, it just didn't have enough. It didn't take this kind of formula to the next level. It was just a reskin, and yeah, I don't see myself playing this game anymore. So if I had to give a rating on it, because it is essentially the same game, only just the wow factor is less for me now, I'd say it's a 6.5 or 7 at best. But again, I think your mileage is going to vary. Anybody who is craving a World War II airplane game, this is it, man. This is it, and the price point's fine, and it runs great. So grab it. But just only expect so much. All right, man. I'll turn it over to you. I kind of have nothing more, unfortunately, to say about this.
Yeah, I've always wondered. There are games out there like DCS World, like these combat games that you can play in VR, and there's some other ones. Like there's one called like Thunder something that I haven't tried, and I'm wondering how good they are, like compared to because I think some of them you can do World War II type stuff, but I'm just really not into flight sims. So I've never tried the Microsoft Flight Simulator and all this other stuff. So I don't know much as how to compare it, but I think this game's pretty fun. I think I like this one more than the other one, because these newer planes appeal to me more than those old planes. That you like the older planes more.
Yeah, I'm an old plane hipster.
Yeah, yeah, because you had that game from the '90s, right? That it reminds you of.
Yeah,
Yeah.
100. I had that Wings from
Hmm.
Cinemaware games for the
Yeah.
Amiga. That's I think that's what really. I think that was like some wish fulfillment was going on, or like when I first loaded it up, I had that feeling came flooded back. So I think that definitely that did something for me emotionally. And then unfortunately, what's the rest in the game? I mean, like, look, there's content. There's like you can upgrade planes. There's different planes. Like
Hmm.
that's cool. And this is not a knock on that. It's just there's so many games. There's so little time, and you need
Yeah.
to have a magic formula that like will keep you hooked and addicted to it. And this is missing something. That's my point.
Yeah, so the graphics were nice in the cockpit, but if you get down close to the ground, you can see that the ground textures are low res, and then the trees are like flat, kind of like cardboard. But it looks fine, um, playing normally. And there's like while you fly, there's dramatic music, and you hear the bullet fire, and you can hear it hitting you as you're flying the bullets. And I was looking at my wing, and I could see my wing getting bullet holes in it as people were shooting at me, which I thought was cool. And the most important thing was it has B-haptic support. So I wore my B-haptics vest and played it, so I was feeling all the bullet fire in my vest. Did you try it with the vest?
I did try it with the vest, and it was cool that it offered support, and it was around that time I'm just like, I'm gonna move on. And
Okay.
it's funny, dude. This just makes me really wish Vox Machina will do haptic, because I can see how cool it would be, right?
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah, so then the controls are motion controls. Or I think you could use your analog sticks if you want to, or you can use a HOTAS, which I don't have. So you have a throttle and you have the joystick in your cockpit. And I don't know, there's 10 planes. You can pick three difficulties, there are two different cannons. And I sometimes wasn't understanding which one I should use. And you can drop bombs and shoot rockets. So that's something that I don't think is in the World War one. I don't know. I don't know if you know that, Nick. But
I
yeah,
don't think so. Yeah.
yeah, I understand that this feels just like just like a reskin. Some people were complaining that this should have just been DLC or something. But since it's only 14.99, I'm like whatever. It seems like a good enough price, and I had fun, but I didn't try the multiplayer. I just did the single player missions. But yeah, you beat a mission and then you just see on your map now there are more missions. But there's no story. You just upgrade your plane and then go to that. It kind of feels like a mobile game.
I think it
You know?
was a mobile game.
Oh, okay.
I think that's what you're feeling, and that's
Okay.
why. And that's the thing. That's like, what I said in the first review is like, man, you've got the guts here. You've got the
Yeah.
foundation here, right? Like, the next move is to make a game, and don't work with the people who did the campaign for Vox Machina. That's how you do it wrong. But like, like the cutscenes, but to have a story where you have some characters and like, you're up in the air, and there's just something that gives you that level of immersion that yes, you're actually in this war, and there's things at stake, and you're not just kind of flying these planes and shooting these things. I mean, it's just like this arcadey kind of wave like experience. This is a
Yeah.
wave shooter in the air, and that's it.
Hmm.
And you're right. It's funny that you say it's a mobile game, because I think it was. So
Yeah.
yeah, but I'll tell you this: the price point, 14. Like, these guys are good. They figured it. Like, God bless them. They priced it appropriately, where it's worth a bite.
Yeah. And I feel the same way as you about the rating, where you're like 6.5, 7 at best, somewhere in there. Same thing.
Yeah. All right. Well, there it is. Thanks for the review copy. I think this will do well. People like the first one. Will You're getting more of the same, so you'll like it. People, you felt like me, maybe could skip it. So kind of shrug your shoulders, flip a coin, and you're gonna land on it. What game? What are you most excited for in terms of games in VR coming up?
Well, Resident Evil 4 remake, but that's not going to come out until March of 2023. Upcoming. Man, that's a tough question because Green Hell, I tried a demo of the PC version that had bad performance, so I'm a little bit scared of that. That's coming out June 9th. Kayak VR Mirage, pretty pretty into that, but I'm not. It's nothing like a Resident Evil game or something. F122. A lot of people are excited about that. I'm not that interested in racing. Do you ever play racing games in VR?
I don't know.
Okay.
Yeah, so it does nothing for me.
Um. Hmm. I don't know. I can't think of anything that I'm really excited about. I'm excited. I want to finish Resident Evil 3. That's what I'm excited about right now, and playing more of these other mods.
Yeah. I'm with you, man. And it's okay that the summer's light. Like look, I in terms of gaming, there's always been the thing where you start seeing games and releases in the fall, right when the weather's turning, people going back to school or whatever, vacations are over, and then around the holidays. So it's understandable that we're getting kind of this dearth of games. I think Green Hell, I was excited about it until I saw that's a single player game.
Mm-hmm.
I've said it before. I absolutely loved what was the other what's that other game?
The Forest?
The Forest. I loved The Forest because I was able to play with a group of people, and it was really fun to do that experience together. But yeah, I'm going to pay attention to Green Hell. It's gotten really good reviews on Quest 2, so we'll see where that lands. Maybe that's a game I grab. But yeah, it's kind of like that. I hope everybody enjoys the summertime. Make sure you take off your headsets and go outside, and especially you live in areas where it's cold in the wintertime. That's my advice. And anything in closing before we shut this down, Justin?
No, that's it. Thanks for listening.
Yeah, thanks for listening as always, and we'll catch you next time. Take care.